Hello viewers, welcome to yet another exciting edition of the Youth and the Road to 2018, where we tackle critical issues relating to youth. As we head to 2018 elections, we would love to hear what youth from different political organizations, different political parties think about the 2018 elections. So today on the program, I have invited one lady who has been vocal in terms of encouraging women to participate in elections, and I would love to hear you introduce herself and the work that she is doing. Welcome to the program, Terry.
Thank you, Lovejoy. My name is Tariro, and I'm coming from Women for Women Solidarity. We are running the campaign #SheVotes 2018. Why we began this campaign was because we realized that the participation of young women, the meaningful and active participation of young women in electoral processes was very minimal. Yet the numbers are 52% of the population are women in Zimbabwe. And we felt that, you know what, at the end of the day, for us to have policies that are pro-women, we need to engage and galvanize as many young women to be active in taking part in national processes, especially the electoral processes. So that's where we are coming from as Women for Women, and we are trying to encourage young women to vote and to run as candidates as well, to ensure that the policies that will be made in Parliament are pro-women and they consider the needs of women in Zimbabwe. Because like now, the economy is ailing, and the person who suffers the bad brunt of it all at the end of the day is the young woman. Because there's the older men, there's the younger men, there's the older women, and at the bottom of the food chain is the younger women. So it's up to us as young women to come together and say, let's push for more women in Parliament, and also push for us to actually vote on voting day to make sure that policies that come down are actually pro-women and support the needs of women.
All right. Through your engagement with young women from different sectors, how has been the response so far? The response has been amazing. Women actually are ready to take part. If anything, I think you've even seen that women actually taking up, the stepping up and saying, you know, not only will I want to vote, but I also actually want to run for public office. And it's been an overwhelming response to say that I think we have put our foot in the right direction. And I'm impressed with the way women have taken it, both in the urban areas and in the rural areas. And right now the mantra is almost all of them are waiting for the registration to begin. If ZEC says they are opening their doors to say they are now starting the process of registration, young women are ready to actually take part. All right. Of late, especially in the last few months, a lot of young women, they've come out, declared their ambitions to run for public offices. What do you attribute this to?
What do I attribute that to? I mean, at the end of the day, Zimbabwe is in a crisis, and it's something we cannot ignore. It's a public secret. And I think young people, it's not necessarily young women, young people realize that unless and until they occupy those spaces, policies will not be friendly for them as young people in Zimbabwe. We are the ones who've been disadvantaged the most. If anything, we own nothing as young people. Yes, we are educated, but our education is not translating in us taking care of ourselves socioeconomically. So at the end of the day, young people are saying, you know, enough is enough. We have been ruled by these older people for longer than is necessary, and maybe now we need a dissenting voice in Parliament with a significant representation of young people in Parliament. So that's why young men and young women are stepping up and saying, you know what, if these people are not doing a good job in actually taking care of us as young people, maybe we can do a better job in taking care of ourselves as the younger generation in Zimbabwe.
All right. While we are still on that, the majority of these guys who are coming out and declaring their ambitions to run for office are not coming from political parties. They are coming out as individuals and independent candidates. Do you think they are able to go for it alone? To be honest with you, if we look at the requirements for one to actually run under a political banner, an example, let's just say MDCT, you need to have been a subscribing member for 5 years for you to then run under their ticket. So at the end of the day, when you look at it, and also young people are looking at a place where they are saying, looking at their secretariat, if it's not speaking to having a significant representation of young people in the secretariat or in the national executive, then they are actually shying away from political parties, because to them they feel that political parties have failed them, because even within the structures of the political parties, the representation of young people is very minimal. So young people feel that maybe if we run outside of political parties, maybe we stand a better chance. But all I have to say is that, you know what, I think there's need for open talks between these young people who are aspiring to run and these political parties. I don't think it's fine. The constitution of the MDC is clear. But I think if you went there as a young person declaring that you
also want to run there, and you've got the capacity, and you spoke to those people, and if they recognize that the capacity is undeniable, I suppose they'll throw their weight behind you or rally behind you if you ask to be maybe under their ticket. That's just my hope in what I think. But I suppose other people think differently, but that's what I think.
And then you've got a part like Zanu-PF where you have the likes of Kudzi Chipanga is an MP, but then you look at their structures, you've got less and less youths who are within, the proper structures, the bigger positions.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
My take on that is two-way. In most political parties, there is what they call the Youth Assembly, and then there's also what they call the Women's League. And these structures have proved problematic over the years, because at the end of the day, why should you separate people to say this is the Women's League, this is the Youth League? And with the youth, it becomes different because the youth encompasses both women and men who are below the age of 35. So at the end of the day, you then realize that it's somehow it's been designed in such a way that it marginalizes, especially women, in actually taking part on the power table. They are there at the bottom as the support system, but they are not actually there where the decisions are being made. So I think at the end of the day, if we interrogate to say that there's also a revision that needs to be done within the political parties themselves. When you look at Chipanga, is 30, I think it's 35 or 36. Yeah, 36. And he is actually the leader of the Youth Assembly of Zanu-PF. But a youth in Zimbabwe is defined as someone between the age of 15 and 35. So at the end of the day, by next year, he's no longer a youth. Has he worked hard to pass on the baton to somebody else who's within the age rank of saying you are defined as a youth in Zimbabwe? I don't know. But we all know in Zanu-PF the definition of a youth is different from the one that we know.
Interesting. And then there have been concerns that were raised that most of the times youths are scared, especially young women. They're scared to come out in the open because of intimidation, of violence, and whatnot. You as what's your organization, by the way? Women for Women.
Yes.
What have you done to make sure that young women are not intimidated?
Obviously, the political terrain is not friendly, and it's a violent place for young women. And to be honest with you, it's the nature of the politics in Zimbabwe, something that is difficult to... I mean, even men are exposed to that kind of violence. What more the young women? So it deters young women from taking part. But at the same time, if we say that we are providing a support system for young women who want to actively and meaningfully participate outside of political structures, I think that should work in our favor. Because within the political structures, women are not being given the support that they need, if to be honest with you. So now as young women, we are saying, let's create a space, a safe space, whereby we are going to give women across the political divide the support system that they want as voters and also as candidates for elections.
Well, let's just still on that one. You're talking about support. What kind of support would you want the young men to be given?
I think some people go into this political terrain not knowing what is expected of them, number one. Two, not knowing how the environment operates, right? So the support system we try to give is to try to educate them more on what really happens on the ground and better prepare them mentally for what they are going to see when they go there practically. So we try to give them a support system to say that within the political parties, young women are actually marginalized. So now we are creating a space where young women can actually step up without fear of intimidation, without fear to say, what will my elders say from the political party or whatever it is, because we are saying we are cutting across the political parties. Our main goal, or let's just say what ties us together, is that we are young women hungering for maximum participation of young women in elections as voters and as candidates.
All right. And then we have got the rural women and the urban young women.
Yes.
Right. How do you mobilize those two? How do you interact with those two groups? The rural women, normally they are marginalized, and then you've got you guys, the urbanites, you're sort of well informed. How then do you go about the rural women and then tell them what's going on in the urban areas? In
my experience, it's been interesting to note that the rural women are actually more involved and they're actually hungry to participate in such programs more than the urban women. You flight an advert like here in Harare CBD to say you are having a program like this, but the turnout is so low. Unlike when you go to the rural areas, because what we do is we have our central people who are in the different provinces, who we contact and say, we want to bring a program like this to your area, so mobilize your people. And And then when we go there, we find them waiting for us in their numbers. And there are people you can easily engage with. There are people who are actually forthcoming and so open to the engagements, to the extent that, it's humbling when you have that kind of experience. In as much as they are afraid, because the main thing that they always raise is that trukutya kuti vanhu vanenge vachiziva kuti ndichavhotera papi, ndikutya because sabhuku vanoziva kuti nindiriwo kwakati kwakati. But we tell them, look, when these people come with farming inputs for you and saying they are doing you a favor and giving you that, we are not saying rambai because namonde edu tese tiri kutambura anditi, but we are saying accept that stuff, but in the back of your mind, acknowledge and know that they are not doing you a favor. That is your right. You are entitled to that stuff. And also keep in mind that on voting day, you should vote for someone that you want to vote for. Musanyepere kunzizweni, we will know who you voted for. Your secret, your vote is your secret at the end of the day. So we try to dismantle that fear that has been created in them. We try to demystify that fear. Because most of them, they don't want to come up for fear. So we go there and then say, no, musanyepere. It's not true. Imagine on voting day, the ballot box is full of so many papers who know kuti X in their mining, X in their mining. It's not logical. So we try then to tivagatsukane hama dzavo kuti no, you know what, vakauya nezvinhu. It hurts no one if you take the stuff, but at the end of the day, your vote is your secret.
You have to know
kudya tese tiri kuda kudya, and at the end of the day, namo ndiye munhu wese, and don't think they are doing you a favor because it is your right for you to have that stuff to yourselves. You are entitled to it as the Constitution provides.
All right. From what you're saying, they come to listen to you guys, and you tell them stuff. Then we come here kuma town. You've got the likes of Anafadzi, you've got the likes of Anavimbai. Those guys, they've declared their ambitions to run for office. And are they willing to take up that challenge? Councillor, MP, presidium.
You'll be amazed how young women in the rural areas actually want to participate. The last activity we had it in Kwakutu, and we actually made a clarion call to say that which young women feel the need to say that, I'm done with being in the sidelines. I now see myself as someone actually serving my community, maybe as a councillor or as an MP. And with a number of young women who stood up. But the problem is that they do not have the resources to actually fund a campaign for themselves. And we all know that the modes of production are owned predominantly by men in Zimbabwe. So in as much as munanengane chilo, I want to run and serve my people or save my ward or my constituency, the greatest impediment is that they don't have the resources to do it. But they are willing and they are ready. The only problem is that the resources they do not have.
Saka, because you're talking about we are in a patriarchal society. How then do you deal with such issues? Okay, guys, this thing has been predominantly done by men and whatnot. So, encourage us to take up those.
Okay. What we usually do is when we go to these places, we don't just engage young women only. We also encourage some men to also come because these are their husbands, these are their brothers, these are the people that they live with in their communities. We all know how patriarchal our society is in nature. So we also encourage men to come to so that they hear that we are not saying kuti disrespect varume, or we want to actually say we are saying we are not recognizing the rights that they have as men, but we're also saying let's work together as both men and women to ensure that women participate where it's needed. It's their right, as Section 71 of the Constitution says, their right to vote for their party of choice and vote for their person of choice. This is a democracy, so we don't want them not to participate in the process, but we want them to participate in the process.
All right. And then there's also been talk wakadzi within yourselves. You pull each other down. When someone wants to, elevate yourself up there, you pull each other down. So, to
that question, I would just say something so simple.
Okay.
Why is it that when men talk about politics or they have contending idea in politics, it's called politics. But when it's now women with contending ideas in politics, it's called pulling it down syndrome. That's the response I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
While listening on that one, Iwewe is Tariro, you've been vocal, you've been, saying all stuff. Would you support Grace Mugabe as president?
let's make no mistake. When it comes to supporting, I will not support blindly. I think I need to see if that person is capable to discharge the duties that they suppose or are saying they want to run and claim at the end of the day. So I always think that let's not just vote for women on the ticket that they're just women, but we should also vote for them by virtue of them having the capacity or the credibility, what are they called? The credentials to discharge their duties. So not just on the basis of you being a woman, will I say you have my vote. No, you need to go an extra mile to convince me to say that if I put you in that place or if I vote for you, you will discharge your duties. You will push for what you would have said you are going to push for in there. So let's not take it for granted to say by virtue of you having, and because I also have, it's automatic that I'll vote for you. You need to go the extra mile.
All right, let's move away from that. Let's talk about voter education. I'll go back to the rural areas as well.
Yes.
Because, well, from here, I think most of us know what's going on, the BVR system. Mimi pamnombe ndo kumaruwa muno response chakamira sei voter education.
Mnozia voter education, we are doing the best that we can with the resources that we have, and kumaruva vanhu vavasikunzwisisa nyaya yeBVR sterek because munhu anenge akudzwa kuti kana tatora fingerprint yako tinenge takuziva kuti wavhotera ani, vari kunyeperwa zvisikatomboiti, and people are feeding off that fear that they've instilled in them, which is wrong. So what we do is we make sure when we go there tinoitry kuvaudza kuti no hapana zvakadaro, and BVR we simplify it to a layman's perspective to say break it down for them to understand kuti what's the system about, how is it going to work. And we're not saying we are voting using that system, but it's just a system we're going to use to register as voters. So we try to break it down to them so that they understand what is going on. And on a basic level, I think where we have gone, I think they're now just waiting for ZEC to give the green light to say that the process has begun, and then they register to vote.
And then, proof of residence. I'm more concerned about the rural population because like proof of residence. Yes, I is love kana but varukuma misha murukudilana saying proof of residence.
Proof of residence I'm not saying that the requirement should fall completely because it's necessary for some things to work out, like for delimitation and also to avoid double voting and constituency staffing. But at the same time, when you look at vekumaruva manje zvinoonesa nezvokuti residential proof unofana kuipiwa na leader wako wemuward mako handiti, and my activities evanhu communities are that small singe kumamisha, people know each other on that level kuti neighbor wangu ari kuita chakati, neighbor wangu ari kufamba nemusangano wakati ari kuita chakati nechakati handiti. So at the end of the day you are under sort of like a microscopic eye to say that if you go there to your chief and maybe he knows kuti you are not for a certain party, maybe he might not be forthcoming to give, I don't want to put my excuses. At the end of the day it's the prerogative of the community leader to give you the proof of residence or not in the rural areas. So we don't know then how then to go around that. But at the same time, what I've also advocated for to people was to say that as civic society, when we go into those communities and say we are going to do voter education, let's go there with an open mind and not be antagonistic to the community. My leaders and say we're not coming here to fight you, but we're coming to work together. I think we need to emphasize the point of coalescing and working together. In as much as they are of a certain political affiliation, maybe different from maybe ours or the communities, but we need one another. So when we go there, I think our approach is very important to say that tofana kwenda ikoko siri confrontational, but we go there to say truda kubatsirana, and they are really forthcoming, to be honest with you. And then I think from there it becomes, but manje tikaenda tine attitude already. You know what, you will not penetrate those areas no matter what. So at the end of the day, I think our approach is very key. Approach, especially in the rural areas, is very key, and we need to revise how we do that as civic society if we are going in there to do voter education.
All right. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you are one of the people who have been, clamoring for ZEC to, to write a voter registration, voter early. What can ZEC do from now, from the period of Tiri up until 2018 elections? Now we can have an election.
Right. The election day, I mean, the constitution is clear that voter registration should be an ongoing process until election day. So why hasn't it begun? I mean, they came, Zek, and said we're supposed to start in March. Then they moved it to April. Then they said June. And then they said August. Now I hear it's October, yeah. Right? So then when you hear that happening, to say what's really happening with SEC, because constitutionally they're actually breaching their mandate as a commission. Right. So they are supposed to be saying that registration is supposed to be ongoing from now until election day, but we haven't even begun the registration itself. It's like they're deliberately waiting for us to then do the registration at the 11th hour, at the last minute, where it becomes chaotic, and then at the end of the day, many people are left out of that process. Right. So what we would want, ZEC, is, first and foremost, they should start the process. I don't think that requires too much or rocket science. I remember Rita was saying something about, we are afraid that if we start the process, people will forget. Yeah. Do not underestimate our intelligence, right? Even when they are waiting for you, Zek, to start the process. Let's register in time, in good time, so that things happen systematically, properly, as planned. Not last minute, because I swear to you, October, when October comes, will be told November. And the elections, to be honest with you, I will swear to you again, are not going to happen anytime later than the first quarter of next year. So when you look at it that way, we then say that what is ZEC doing, dragging their feet and taking so long to start the process, when the constitution is clear to say that they should have started the process and should be ongoing until election day. And apparently for them, it's not going to be ongoing until election day. It's actually going to be for, I think, 90 days or something like that in each ward. Why 90 days when the constitution says the process should be ongoing until election day?
So do you think this dragging feet by ZEC can open up channels for rigging?
Honestly speaking, from what I'm hearing about the by-elections and what has been going on, like in Chiwundura, I'm sure you heard, it's so sad. I think right now, as we are waiting, saying we are waiting for voter registration to happen, they are already cooking the books. And like you always say, if in a place, if Zanu-PF is voting, let's say it's a place where there are 8 people, Zanu-PF will win with 12 votes. That's how it is. It's the nature of things. But it's not funny. I don't like to laugh about it, because not all words are to say that right now, as we are speaking, the election is being stolen from us. And before the process even begins, we've already maybe lost, or people have already voted before they even vote. So it's so sad.
All right. All right, this is the program Youth and the Road to 2018, where we are talking on different issues relating to young women and their participation in the 2018 elections. Tari, I will come to you and talk about vote buying. My youth are sort of my victims of vote buying from my political parties. How do we address such issues? Vote buying.
I think I touched on it when I spoke about Vekumaruwa, to say kuti kana vanhu vachiuya nezvinhu kuti ndokupa chakati for you to give me your vote, or to assure me that you're going to vote for me. I mean, the economy we are in right now, people are struggling, and the poverty datum line is just so low, and many people are living beneath $1 a day. So when someone comes with rice and says kuti shoni ndikuda ku 2014 ndikakupa this cup of rice, like I will mention again, it hurts you less if you just take the rice, but pauno votera uchiza paucha votera at the end of the day. I would like to mention kuti there's a point in time pandakaenda ku Chikomba West as a ward, and I was really impressed with what I heard, because these people vanogara kumapraz and it vati zvoni imurukuya panapa muchititi zvoni ko imimi, are you ready, makuda kuvhota here and what not, when you are the ones who are letting us down. Ndikati, we are letting you down how? Because no, inini, I've lived paprazi all my life. I know what 2 hectares looks like. Anditi asi mimi vekutown anditika munanoya with a promise to say I'm going to give you 2 hectares of land, anditika iwewe ndonobva uvhotera musango, yet 2 hectares can't even contain a round hut, a fowl run, let alone a garden. So they are saying, so we with Ruma Prazi, 2 hectares, I can estimate with my eye to not apa, and I know kuti as a person it's not enough for one person, but imimi ukanza 2 hectares, you don't even interrogate 2 hectares actually, what does it look like? Waktotenga, waktopa your vote to wanenga kupa 2 hectares itso. Mangwana wakuna noona 2 hectares actually not cool, naizuri kufamba say. So when I saw things with a different lens. when I had that experience to say, I think it's wrong for us to go and say rural people are letting us down, because I think somehow we are also letting each other down, because there are some who are so clear, but in Mimi over my town, you purport yourselves to be so educated, you purport yourself to say you know almost everything, yet you are the ones actually letting us down.
All right. Let me go back. My youth who are coming up and taking up my positions and it. Do you think with all these guys that we have, Anafadzi, we have got Anavimba, we have got maybe Lumumba, and it, is there need for a youth coalition? And then we can say, this is our candidate, this is a youth candidate, for president. Well, definition, but maybe it's not somebody that fought.
Theoretically, I think it's a sound idea to have a youth coalition or whatever it is. But practically, right now, we are moving towards 2018. And we are, let's just say, at the 11th hour or the last minutes waiting for the next election. So it's either you are or. There's no in between. That's just what I think. And unfortunately, if you are saying you are the independent candidates who have actually run and won are people who've once been in Zanu-PF before, who have that kind of background, and they decided to be independents. I mean, Jonathan Moyo, Themba Mliswa, and what's his name? This other guy, I've forgotten his name. But I'll just say they've had the experience of being Kereke, exactly. They've had the experience of being in Zanu-PF before, and they've won. And if you see the manner in which Themba did it, Themba was once in Zanu-PF, and then he left Zanu-PF, and then he went to bed with MDC for some time, and then got the support, and then he won that seat in Norton. But now he has chopped off the finger of MDC, and he wants to do nothing with MDC, you see. So at the end of the day, there's some cunning behavior that is needed for you to actually win as an independent candidate. You cannot just win on merit. This is the politics of Africa and Zimbabwe, whereby people are not yet ready for the politics of ideas. People are not yet ready for the politics that is progressive. People are still stuck in the politics of personalities, in the politics of what of people, right?
So are they fighting a lost cause?
I'm not going to say it's a lost cause, because it is good to see that it's a milestone. I mean, in the Zimbabwe that we've known for a long time, young people have not stepped up as they've done now. I'm impressed with that. But I think at the same time, people should keep in the back of their minds to say that it's difficult for you to run as an independent candidate if you are not within a political party, you don't have the support of a political party. So it's going to be a really long road, a mammoth task for them to win as independent candidates. But I think they should also keep the doors open for communication with opposition parties as well, for them to be assisted where they need their assistance, and for them to coalesce in some way. In as much as they are running as candidates as independent candidates, they need to also acknowledge the merits or the gains that came with the opposition parties, and not throw away the baby with the bathwater completely to say, because I don't like MDC because they are lacking here. There's no one who's perfect. There's no political party that will be perfect. Everyone has their weaknesses, but let's work towards dismantling those weaknesses or filling in those gaps in the loopholes, but then also give credit where it's due, where the positives have come. So I think if I were someone who said today I want to run as an independent candidate, I would not close the doors completely to actually having talks with opposition political parties, especially the MDCT, to see how maybe they can assist me, in as much as I haven't been maybe a subscribing member for 5 years. But I'm also saying to say, if I have the capacity and I'm saying I want to do this, and we are in agreement to say that, we need this kind of caliber of a leader in that place, right? I need their help. They've been in that terrain for so long. They know how the environment operates. So I need to hear from them and work hand in glove with them, instead of me antagonizing them completely and calling them out where they are failing. I'm not saying that they are not failing. There are places where they are failing, but we also need to give credit where it's due, where they've done well. And then where the loopholes are, let's help each other to fill in those loopholes.
All right. And then going into 2018, I'll always come back to rural urban youths. We have got the rural and then the urban youths. How critical are those? And which one do you think will influence more on the result 2018?
That's an obvious question. The one that impacts more, it's not obvious now that I think of it. I think we have I think we have so many virgin voters, people who've never voted before, especially in the urban areas. And I think if our candidates worked hard to tap into those who've never voted before, their chances may be a bit favorable. But in the rural areas now, these are the people who actually show up on voting day. Unlike urban voters, they don't show up. They are all high-sounding nothings. They talk, make noise on social media and this and that. But on election day, they actually don't show up. Unlike the raw voter area. Anonyaso register. And on the day anengaripo, they are that faithful. So I think we need to take borrow a leaf as urban voters as well from those guys to say that maybe let's try and emulate what they've done, because I think it's all for nothing if all we do is talk and have meetings and sit down. When the actual day is there, we never show up, or in supporting one another, we don't support one another. As young people, we would have let ourselves down. So let's just acknowledge that we have failed somehow and then make a plan in fixing that. Going forward,
having engaged Nema youth at one day, next year, how do we then get rid of that mentality?
What we do is, who says Women for Women Solidarity, is that we always try to do our messaging in such a way that every single vote counts. Even one vote matters. We even bring out scenarios in other countries whereby one vote determined an outcome. There are so many of them. Even for, what's his name, Hitler, to become the president of the... It was one vote that made him... One vote. Jogutika, if one person hadn't voted for him on that day, would never know about him, would never even know that there was a man called Adolf Hitler. So when you look at it in that way, to say that, let's go there and say that every vote counts. By not voting, you would have actually voted to maintain the status quo. That's one thing people don't know. You stepping away is allowing other people to make that decision on your behalf. By not voting, you have actually voted. And what have you voted for? You have voted to maintain the status quo and allow what's happening to continue. Yet we all know that what is happening is not an ideal situation that we'd want as a country and as a nation.
All right. Interesting. We are still on the program Youth and the Road to 2018, where I have Tariro here, who is talking about the importance of youth, young women in the 2018 elections. Tari, let's move away from all these young women and from this raw and whatever. Let's talk about what the Constitution says about the proportional representation of women in Parliament. We have got those 60 women. Are they necessary in the House, in Parliament?
What you mean when you say are they necessary in
the
House?
Do we need to have women who represent, we have got a certain number of women who represent around? Do we need those 60?
You're talking about the women's quota?
Yes.
You're putting me between a rock and a hard place, because my view is a bit different from everybody else, and even from maybe the people I work with, because people are for the 50-50 quota system. But I also think that we have so many women who are capable to actually run and be part of the decision-making table without it being given to them. They are there with the capacity to transform this country without being given to them to say, because muriva kadzi, So we don't want a scenario whereby at the end of the day, so we want to be in a situation whereby we're saying, I end this. I worked for this. I'm where I am because I worked for it. So my view is a bit different from people to say that, yes, 50-50, it's ideal and it's good, especially if we're saying we are pursuing gender equality, because the issue of gender equality is very critical in all things, from politics to everything else, right? But also we need to consider that let's not just occupy those seats with women just by virtue of them being women, but let's make sure those seats are occupied by capable women who know what they're doing, women who bring the change that we actually crave for. So at the end of the day, whether you give us those seats or you don't give us those seats, we still have women who are capable, and we are coming for those seats.
And then since maybe 2013, let me just say from 2013 up until now, have they done enough to represent you as a young woman? Say, at least vana vari kushanda zvinhu zvandiri kuonekera grievances as a young woman ari kunzwika parliament through this quota system.
To be honest with you, they have failed us to some extent. And I also understand that there is the whipping system in place in Parliament, which, I mean, honestly, it is what it is. And our Parliament there's a 2/3 majority of the ruling party. We always have people like Chesima Jome who are speaking for progressiveness and whatever it is. But unfortunately, their voices are not loud enough because they're in the 1/3, and unlike those who are in the 2/3 majority. Then, of course, we have some women who some people actually claim are sitting ducks in parliament who they say they've not seen what they've done, or they've not seen what policies they've pushed through in parliament. So it becomes a bit problematic when it's like that. But in my view, I think that somehow we've been let down. And the policies that we have are not pro-women to a certain extent, or to the extent that we expect them to be. We are not yet there. And I think we still can push to an extent whereby we say we are now where we want to be as women in terms of policies in Zimbabwe.
All right. Let's also talk about the economic situation in Zimbabwe. No jobs. And now we have to go to 2018 elections. Young women, in terms of the economy, how has that affected you?
It's a public secret. I mean, the economy, we are in a quagmire, and you cannot escape that. It's a reality, it's a lived reality, actually. And as I mentioned before, to say that whenever a country suffers economically, like Zimbabwe is suffering, the young woman is nowhere. The young woman is at the bottom of the food chain. If anything, you look at it in such a way it's survival of the fittest. And where is the young woman? She's nowhere. Imagine kuti men vanochingirisa, older men vanochingirisa. The older women also vanongoona kuye kuita, but the young woman now, where is she? She doesn't have those. I mean, men own the modes of production. That's a public secret. And then at the end of the day, with what's going on economically right now, the young women are suffering the most, and we need to change that, because we have the numbers in our favor as young women. 52% is women in Zimbabwe. So let's use those numbers to support us. I mean, if someone came and said, I'm holding a rally, political parties, they hold rallies all the time. If you really look at the people who attend those rallies,
yeah, sure.
So if we take those numbers of women who go there to support men, and instead we channel them to support other women, what world would that be? Wouldn't that be an ideal world? So women shouldn't underestimate the power that they have to say they are only there to support other people's political will. They should also be there to say that in supporting other people's political will, we also can run for office and do a better job than those men.
I was going to ask you that.
Yes.
Especially on the youth side. Are they capable of transforming this country from the situation that we are in right now, economically?
The young women who are running, are you asking?
Yes. We're just looking at the candidates that we have.
That we have, I think they are able to do that if they put it in the back of their minds to say that I'm not just running for the sake of running, but I should run to win. And when you're saying you are running to win, you need to understand that you're not operating in a vacuum. In as much as you are running for whatever ward or whatever constituency, you need to also look at how the national politics reflects on your candidature as well. Do not divorce yourself from the national politics, because at the end of the day, you would have lost the plot altogether. So my wish is for them, when they are running, they should put it in their mindset, I should run to make sure I win. Not because but let's do whatever we can to make sure that we win those seats. And how do we win those seats? Unfortunately, politics is a game of numbers. You need those numbers. You cannot do away or underestimate the power of numbers in politics. So I wish they could introspect and think of that as they are running their campaigns or whatever it is, to say that at the end of the day, it's about the numbers. What am I doing to maximize on my numbers?
And then, as we talk, we're talking with a lot of people. My youth candidates are where they are filled with emotions, very bitter. Is it true?
Bitter. I mean, we are all bitter, the youths in Zimbabwe, regardless of the fact that we are running or not running. All of us, I think, we've been given the bad brunt of it all, of this economy. That they are run by emotions. Yeah, I think to some extent we are emotional because we are where we are and it's not fair. And, honestly speaking, it's up to us to change the status quo and to entirely then write them off to say it's because they are being reactionary. I think that's the worst thing you can do for ourselves as a generation. We should give them a chance and see if they stand the test of time and allow them to test the waters of politics to see how it is and then perfect on where they failed, if ever they fail. And if they succeed, that's a plus for us as a generation. But if they don't succeed, it's a learning curve for everyone. We'll get there someday. But it's just good to say that whoever is running as a young person, let's make sure that they cultivate the capacity that they have. And it's good for them to be open-minded and speak to other people. I think they should open the doors of communication. But if you then say, you know what, I'm closed off to the rest of Zimbabwe, but I'm concentrating on my ward. It's a sad case. It's such a sad case it's a sad case, that's all I have to say. I can't overemphasize that point. So people should realize that we need one another. Let's work hand in glove with one another. Seek counsel where you don't understand. And have friends who tell you the truth. Don't have people who just butter you and lick you and tell you what you want to hear. You also need those people who tell you what you don't want to hear. Those people are building you and not breaking you down, unfortunately.
Just
so
like
if you look at it in that way, to say it's not hating. I always also believe in people who come and oppose with a preposition. Oppose and propose. I mean, if you come and say come then say white say wadai, come with a solution than just to pull someone down without any solutions. I think we also need to do that as a generation and say, kana munari incompetent, call them out on their incompetence, but also finishing a solution to that incompetence.
You've been calling a number of people incompetent yourself, and are you going to run?
Have I?
Yeah, I followed your posts. I normally follow your posts. But are you going to be contesting? Are you going to be taking up any challenge?
No, I'm not going to be running.
Why?
And because when I look at myself, I see myself more of a thought leader myself, and I think
you're good from behind the scenes.
Yes, and the show still goes on because of someone behind the scenes. So I see myself being there, but at the same time, I'm willing to give support to the young women who have stepped up and said they are running, and I've been giving support to the ones that I know so far. To say that all of us should run, I think we are losing the plot as well, because if we're all going to be clamoring for positions, who then is going to be led and who's going to be voting for us? So all I have to say is that we can influence the situation even from where we are. I think I'm comfortable with where I am. I don't necessarily need to be bogged down with a position or a post, or to say I'm running to be a councillor or an MP or whatever it is. Our capacities are different. Our capabilities are different. And I acknowledge mine. I know my weaknesses. I know my strengths. And I'm one person who knows that I can help other people run, but not me actually running.
All right. Let's talk about that long candidates list for 2018. What does it do now to, especially us, my youth? Do we sort of get affected? Or we just need one or two people? What does it do?
You mean the presidential?
Yes, especially the presidential.
At the end of the day, if we purport ourselves to be a democracy in Zimbabwe, people have the right to choose to support their person of choice and their party of choice. So this is the democracy we are saying we have in Zimbabwe. So let's allow people to choose.
And you're happy?
To be honest with you, I'm not happy. But at the same time, like I said, no one is perfect. But I would also think in that imperfection, it would be nice for people to be willing to work towards filling the gaps in those loopholes of their characters or where they are failing as individuals and as political parties. That's what I wish to see, because I'm one person to say that if ndrukugona pakat, it's all well and good. But if someone then raises to say, siwataza pakat, I should also introspect as an individual to say, but munu yukuvadindasaza pakat, let me look at it and see and where can I be better? What can I do to be better? So I wish we could have that mentality to say that it's not only coming from a place of hate or loathing that people come and say, or what, but some people are trying to be constructive. And even if someone is coming from a place of hate, sometimes you should ask yourself to say that, and be honest with yourself.
All right, what psychology Mazisa said, the 3-point whatever jobs that he said were created.
Okay.
As a young lady,
how
do you feel with such statements? In an economy, more than 90% very unemployed.
That was the most vile comment I ever heard from a human being living in the context of Zimbabwe today. What he said reflects the way the regime thinks. In as much as there are some people from Zanu-PF who actually disowned him for saying that, to say we don't know what he's talking about. I think some platforms where people engage certain people to have certain discussions, you need to also be critical to say what kind of merit will this person bring to this discussion. People like psychology should not be entertained on certain platforms because they are politically bankrupt and empty. It's a fact, and it's a very stubborn fact. It is what it is. But let's just look for people who bring value addition to the discourse, who bring value addition to the discussions, people with merit, people who are progressive. Because if you say you are having a discussion and you bring psychology on a panel, a guy who believes in filling potholes with mud, a guy who believes in giving people cups of rice to win an election, and apparently where he ran, where MTC withdrew or boycotted the election, where he won, and he actually even gave people Kranko and Bronco for them to be high, the youths in that area. What kind of a man is that? What kind of a man does that? I like to look at people on what they do and not reflect on their background. But when you hear about his background, it's not something I would want to raise. It's not something nice. But also you should be someone who should be able to speak for the needs of the people. How do you say that you were not talking about formal jobs, but you're talking about creating informal jobs, whereby your sisters, your aunties, your mothers, they are vendors, selling tomatoes on the corner, selling airtime on the corner. Now airtime is being bought electronically. Very soon, these people who are selling airtime on the road will be out of jobs. Yeah. Yes. So when you say that, are you being empathetic to the plight of not only your sisters, your aunties, your mothers, your grandmothers, but also of your neighbors? Don't think of yourself as an individual. Look at your family as well. Psychology, Agari Ega. He should be empathetic when he says certain things. That was the most vile and most unempathetic statement I've ever heard in the context of Zimbabwe. And I wish you could retract it. It's so sad we have people who still think like that, and they are in positions, and they are supposed to be in there speaking for other people and representing other people. It's really sad.
Well, let's just stay on young people representing my youth. We have got my young parliamentarians within Parliament and they're there. If they've done something that you can say, which represent well.
You mean young parliamentarians as in the ones who are in school or the ones below the age of 35?
Ones below the age of 35.
How many are they? There are about 2, I think. Or I think our number 1.
All right, let's just say below 40, because they're still, young.
I look at Chamisa, I think he's doing the best that he can in the given circumstances. And unfortunately, the 2/3 majority makes it so difficult. But also, I think we need more of the numbers in there of young people. Because we can't just have just a representation. We need a significant representation that can swing decisions in such a way that they favor the needs of the young people. So as long as we have 2 people, what are we doing? So it's all good and nice to say that we encourage young people to also run, but also be capable whilst you're saying you also want to run. And when you go in there, don't just be a sitting duck, but speak and represent. I mean, parliamentarians, they are representatives of the constituencies they're coming from. You are a voice for other people, for the voiceless. So when you go there, be the best representation of those people when you go in parliament.
And let's also look at the youth policies within our government setup. Is young women happy? Are they enough to empower you?
If we look at the milestones that we have achieved as a country, especially with regards to gender equality, I think we have some things to celebrate. We have some success stories because Kudara and now we are going to school. Now we have attained my master's degrees, and we are better off than where we were, but we can be better. Because when you look at even my ending of my early child marriages, that's a milestone in itself, but at the same time, we are actually facing challenges in implementation. And I think you've heard that GSC has pushed for a sentencing for those rapists to be increased, and that's what we need, because you need a scenario where people are deterred to commit such offenses, especially against our vulnerable young girls. So as long as the punitive measures that are in place are not deterrent enough, men will continue being perpetrators. So I think as long as we push for severe punitive measures, I think it deters people from exposing young girls to early child marriages, from raping young girls. So I think, yes, we are better off than where we were, but I think there's still room for improvement and we can be better.
Recently, they introduced the Women's Bank. How important is that to you young people?
The Women's Bank is something that is really important. I've only heard of it in theory, but practically I'm still yet to see how it's operating. That's all I have to say about that, to be honest.
All right, as we wrap up, Tari, I would love to know what kind of an election individual you'd want to see heading into 2018, pre, during, and post.
what I envision is an election where we are all pulling in the same direction. An election where we are all saying we are tired of the status quo. An election where the will of the people is respected. Whatever outcome comes out, but the will of the people must be respected. An election where people are not subjected to violence. An election where people are not afraid to voice out what they want through their vote in that election. That's the election I envision.
All right. Great. Rai giving us, tidbits on what her organization is doing and what she should want to see in Zimbabwe as we head towards the 2018 elections. That was the program Youth and the Road to 2018. My name is Lovejoy Mutongwiza. It's been nice having you.
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.